the current state of social justice in Nigeria?
Well, I think sometimes one starts by trying to define these terms so that the listeners would also have an idea, what one is talking about. And I think really contemporary, society, politics. We're talking about, when you talk about social justice, really, you're talking about the fair treatment and equitable status of all individuals and social groups within a country. Equitable treatment and the status of all individuals and social groups within a system. So you want to hear, because you see, for instance, when you talk about governance, there's always the tendency, to talk about the common good, because we believe that when we attend to issues of the common good, to issues that pander to the common good, that you end up satisfying to a very large extent virtually every segment of the society, because they have needs, they have desires, they have ambitions, and that you attend to some of these needs by ensuring that some of those things that make life worth living, are attended to, and that there's adequate response to the needs of the people. And that's essentially, what social justice is about, to ensure that that there is a fair treatment and equitable status of all individuals within, the country. And so you now begin to talk about how you're going to bring these things about. You have, because again, the Constitution gives us an idea of what is expected, or what are the expectations of a government, the expectations of politicians, those who govern on behalf of the people. It talks about the welfare of the people and the security of the people. So when you are able to answer, to the needs of the welfare of the people, and you are able to also provide for the security of the people, then to a very large extent, you are ensuring, social justice, on behalf of the people, or for the people.
So how would you say Nigeria is doing right now?
Bye-bye, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, that's a big one. I think we have to take a look at the indices of government, the indices of governance, because governance has an objective. There is a purpose, for instance, why some political leaders want to get to power. It is for the purpose of working in the interest of the people and providing certain basic social infrastructure, for the people. And so when you look at, when there's a debt or an absence of all of these things that you're supposed to do as a government, they are supposed to provide, as a government, in terms of, schools, for instance, school infrastructure, in terms of healthcare, in terms of providing the right economic advantage. The right economic condition for people to be able to express their knowledge and their ability, and to make money and to provide for themselves and their kids. The way you do not have all of these things, then you realize that you have a problem. And so when you look at a country where we have been told that 133 million of the citizens are in multidimensional poverty, you cannot talk about social justice for those people, because it means that they do not have access to healthcare, they do not have access to proper education, they do not have access to some of those basic amenities that make life meaningful to people. And so you could say that the state of social justice in this country is a far cry from what it is supposed to be. You look at the criminal justice system, what kind of access do people have to the rule of law? How fair, has the justice system been, or how equitable has it been to a lot of Nigerians? You look at the state of our prisons, for instance, and so many other things accompanying issues. You realize that the state of that Nigeria is in an abysmal state when it comes to issues of social justice, because the state has not been able to provide for the vast majority of the citizens, a situation where very few people have access to governance, very few people have access to the wealth of the nation. You cannot be talking about social justice. A place where inclusivity is not a byword in everything that we do. Where a lot of people are alienated, from their government and from the benefits of governance, then you cannot be talking about social justice.
Okay. In your opinion, what would you say are some of the most pressing social justice issues that we are currently facing in Nigeria? And could you also perhaps share the causes of these challenges?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think Nigerians are grappling with survival. That is one, because we have been told that the most basic, the fundamental need of man is what propels a man is the need for survival. So he will do anything that he can to survive. And so when you have a place where the economic space has been constrained, constricted, and man is not fully to express himself, to be able to provide a better life for himself, then you realize that we have issues. So I would say that the major issue for today is economic. There are no jobs. Even those that have jobs do not have jobs that you would call jobs that provide them with living wages that they can live on and provide a better life for themselves and for their families. Then you also have the issue of, and I think the economic issue has so many dimensions really. And then you now talk about the basic issue of insecurity that has become a problem within the country. So all of these things are exceedingly very, very important. And what is the cause of this? To a very large extent, mainly bad governance, bad political leadership, because it is the right political leadership that is able to put the right, structure for economic growth, for social happiness on behalf of the people. So you have, people with a different kind of motivation who are there just for themselves and for a few people. And then they just get in there and amass the resources, of the state to themselves. So you have a situation where you have a government that is weak. You have institutions of government that are also weak and cannot pander or cater to the interests, of the people. So I would say to a very large extent that, most of our problems emanate from issues of misgovernance or governance issues, and they lead to all the other problems where unscrupulous politicians begin to take advantage of our weaknesses as a people, and then try to build a group of people around themselves, or because of the people's perception of the way that the polity is treating them. There are some people that believe that they are not getting it right in terms of governance in this country, and that governance belongs not just
You're listening to Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. Our guest this morning is Mr. Achike Chude, a public affairs analyst.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome back. We can hear you now.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Thank you. And they're able to get these people to rally them on the basis of primordial interest and pretend that they are actually the champions of the people. Now, when you have that, what leads to it is the fact that institutions are broken down. And when you have institutions that are broken down, that are not able to address the needs of the people, then it becomes easier for some of these unscrupulous elements to be able to attract these people to themselves on the basis of the need to satisfy parochial interests. So these, I think, are also some of the issues that the people have to grapple with.
All right. Well, this is an interactive show, and please let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number 0809 4440981. You can also give us a call 0144899981 or tweet at smooth981. And for you listening, what is your most pressing social justice challenge right now? How have you or someone perhaps that been affected by it? And have you taken any steps to try to address this? We'll continue the conversation on the other side. This is Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1.
Providence Bank, future forward banking.
We're back on in just over a minute, please.
Smooth 98.1. What does future forward banking mean to you? Speed, innovation, convenience, lifestyle goals, or just simply getting service that is designed just for you? Yeah, we thought you might like all of that and more. That is why we specially created Providus Bank for you to take care of your daily experiences. At Providus Bank, we believe that banking should be all about you and your business and how to get you to the next level. If you do not already have a Providus Bank account, please speak with our business concierge on 0700 77 684 387 or email businessconcierge@providusbank.com to switch to a future forward banking experience. Providus Bank, future forward banking.
You're tuned in to the Quiet Storm. Smooth R&B music.
R&B soul music for the real fans of R&B.
Zone in to the best of smooth R&B. Music doesn't change.
R&B is transitional, right? Singing and melody and lyrics that mean something.
Soothing music for the night. And smooth sessions. On Smooth 98.1. Mondays to Thursdays from 8 p.m.
Providus Bank, future forward banking.
You're listening to Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1, 16 minutes past 9 a.m. It's Zibby here. And on Lagos Talks this morning, we have a special guest, Mr. Achike Chude, Public Affairs Analyst. And we're talking about social justice or the reality of social justice here in Nigeria. Mr. Chude, I want to ask this question. How are these some of the issues that affect access to education, to healthcare? How are they affecting the overall development of Nigeria as a nation?
But you know, when Bill Gates came to Nigeria some years back, he went to Aso Rock to the presidency, and then when he came out, he was confronted by journalists, and then they were asking him two or three of the most important sectors in any nation in Nigeria. And he said, he just mentioned the two you talked about, education and healthcare. Extremely, very, very important. And if you look at the two, education is the most important. And the reason why education is the most important is that education is the basis for every other thing you have, even in the healthcare industry. It is education, because our doctors have to be educated, our nurses have to be educated. You can see how, as a result of the crisis of misgovernance and the economic inequalities in the country, some of our educated, medical personnel are leaving this country and going to other parts of the world where they can be better treated. So it is very key to get these two right, because you cannot build a country without the right educational, foundation. Education is key to every development that we have seen in any part of the world. The successes of the West today is based on education. And so that is why it is key. And that is why, for instance, each time our university system is engulfed in crisis, a lot of people who understand the importance that education plays in the development of a country are exceedingly worried and urge the government as quickly as possible to handle that situation. Because if we are not able to properly educate our people, we pay a price. We are paying the price, for instance, what is happening in the north of the country and other parts of the country, where the vast majority of people who have not been educated do not have food, do not have field, or believe that they do not have any stake in our country and they can do anything. It is not to say that educated people do not commit crimes. They also do, but it is much more serious when you have the vast majority of your people that do not have the benefit of education. We will pay the price. And the North, for instance, all of the security crises and challenges that we're having in this country, it's essentially from the North. Even what you are now having in other parts of the country, like the Southeast and the West, was brought about. If you look at the political dynamics of this country and what has happened in the past few years, you realize that it also came in from that side of the country. So it is important that we educate our people whether Southerners or Northerners, everybody, because it elevates the mind and gives the person a different perception of the society that he finds himself in. And the tendency is for him to work better to improve, on the welfare of the society, apart from his own personal improvement. So it's important. Of course, healthcare. Healthcare is about having the right kind of, manpower, making sure that the manpower that you have is in a position to give its all for the benefit of the country. So healthcare is exceedingly very, very, very important.
Thank you for that, Mr. Chude. Now, when it comes to participation, which is one of those,
I'm sorry, Zibby, there's something also that I wanted, to also talk about, and that is the implication of the perpetuation of, social justice issues, the implication of not responding to the needs of the people.
Right.
When we pay a price, I just talked about part of that. The insecurity in this country is as a result of negligence of social justice issues. And so I was trying to say that there are all kinds of factors that are responsible for that. Political and institutional factors, where you have issues of weak state institutions, even elite power struggles among the elite also has, like they say, when two elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers. Then political exclusion. We have seen the agitation in parts of this country because these are social justice issues. Social justice issues can either do with individuals or it can do with social groups. So you have what is happening, for instance, when some people are talking about secession, the need for secession, they are being marginalized and so on. It's a social justice issue. It leads to the breakdown also of even the society itself. Then the breakdown in social contract and corruption, identity politics, social justice issues, where a government is supposed to respond in a particular manner, politicians are supposed to respond in a particular manner, on behalf of the people that have put them in power, and they decide to do the exact opposite. It leads to social exclusion, and that's a social justice issue. Then the other socio-economic factors, inequality, exclusion and marginalization, which I talked about. Then the absence or weakening of social cohesion and poverty. These are, also issues. And of course, you can talk today about, the absence of social cohesion. Nigeria is not a cohesive country. Nigeria is a country that is being pulled to different sides by centrifugal forces rather than centripetal forces, because centripetal forces pull a people together, pull a nation together, while centrifugal forces pull away from the center. And so that has also led to the lack of cohesiveness in the Nigerian state. And you need some level of cohesion to be able to pull a country together towards a particular direction for the good of everybody. So these are some of the issues. And then we have also talked about the need to have political institutions that are able to manage different group interests peacefully. It is critical. So you have a situation where there are social issues. People are shouting marginalization, are shouting exclusion. And so what you do in less developed countries like Nigeria is that you think that it can be solved with military, with violence. While in a more mature democracy, there are so many other institutional forces that can come together to, try to bring the different group interests together for the purpose of discussion and to move the country forward. In this country, we also do not have it. And so all of these things are social justice issues that lead to bigger issues of conflict within the polity.
All right. Let's look at some of the countries in the region. Can you compare, or how does the situation in Nigeria right now compare with some of the other social justice challenges that other countries around this part of Africa have experienced? Are there any lessons that we can learn from their journeys?
Well, if you look at most of the countries, you're talking about the sub-region, obviously. If you're talking about countries that are near us, obviously you're talking about West African countries. How many of them are actually doing well? Because we also have the same kind of mentality, the same kind of political leadership, innate, unpatriotic, visionless, that are not so much motivated by the need to provide a better, condition of life for their citizens. And so what you're going to find is what exactly is happening today. Most of those countries are wallowing in poverty, even with those ones that have been, even with all the massive, let's say, natural and human resources that some of them have been endowed with, because we have not been able to get political leadership right. And if you don't get political leadership right, you cannot get governance right. And if you do not get governance right, you have all manners of social justice issues. So we have them. And of course, you can see that some of these countries are countries, again, that are supposed to be on the path of democracy, but now you are beginning to have military intervention in those places. Why are we having military intervention in those places? Don't forget that in politics, for instance, since we came to, from 1999 to date, each election cycle, even beyond that, even when governments have been installed, keep on talking about the dividends of democracy. What are these dividends of democracy? They are social justice issues, issue of employment, issue of poverty, tackling poverty, issue of making people ensuring that people have access to social infrastructure, to social amenities like energy, for instance, and so many other things. Social security, issues, which we don't have in this country. So these are some of the issues, and that you can see to a very large extent that there is a correlation between what we have in Nigeria, for instance, and what we see and what other people in other parts of the West African sub-region are also experiencing, because governance issues lead to social justice issues. When you're able to get governance issues right, you can begin to provide, the so-called dividends of democracy. But when you don't get it right, it will create all kinds of social justice issues, and that is what the people of the West African sub-region are also grappling with, because the politicians have not been able to get it right in terms of providing basic amenities for the people and getting some of these social justice issues right.
What role do you think the government can actually play in helping to promote this social justice here in Nigeria? And do you think they have any efforts have been made in a more positive direction?
It's not even about the role that the government should play. That is government's primary responsibility. And that's why when I started, I talked about the provisions of the provision of the Nigerian Constitution, which says that the primary duty and responsibility of government is the welfare of the people and the security of the people. So once you can provide for the welfare of the people, that has implications at the economic level, that has implications at the social level, and at the security level. So once you can provide for the welfare of the people, then you have gone some way in providing for the social, issues of the people. So government has a major primary responsibility. They need to come out with programs, reform, even the criminal justice system in a way that makes it respect human dignity. Government has to, also reform the judicial system. Well, they're all part of the criminal justice system, the issue of the rule of law. Of course, we remember what happened with the NSAS. It was a social justice issue that led to the, NSAS protests. So government has a responsibility to do all of those things. Government has a responsibility. A government across
You're listening to Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. Our guest is Mr. Achike Chude, public affairs analyst. And we're talking about the reality of social justice here in Nigeria. We're taking a quick break and we'll continue the conversation on the other side. Let us know what your thoughts are. You can, of course, send them through via WhatsApp. The number is 0809 440 981.
Future forward banking.
Hello, Mr. Chude. Can you hear us?
This is Gold Swag.
Yes. I went on briefly.
Okay. The network vanished for a little bit, so we couldn't hear you. Okay, but we'll be back on in about.
But we're all right.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Taking a break now.
All right.
That's
Forward banking mean to you?
All right.
Innovation, convenience, lifestyle goals, or just simply getting service that is designed just for you? Yeah, we thought you might like all of that and more. That is why we specially created Providus Bank for you to take care of your daily experiences. At Providus Bank, we believe that banking should be all about you and your business and how to get you to the next level. If you do not already have a Providus Bank account, please speak with our business concierge on 0700 77 684 387 or email businessconcierge@providusbank.com to switch to a future-forward banking experience. Providus Bank, future forward banking.
Hi, this is Ruby, the Lady of Soul. When I first came to Lagos, I was confused because I experienced culture shock. Lagos is unlike any place in this country, probably on this earth. It was crazy, it was noisy, it was fast, it was dirty, but at the same time, everywhere I looked, I just saw possibilities. I was just like, wow, this is that place that I can come and my dream can become a reality. I love Lagos, my Lagos. Smooth.
Smoother than a fresh jar of Zibby.
Hello.
Smooth 98.1.
Hello.
This is a Lagos Talks on Smooth 98.1. We're talking about the reality of social justice in Nigeria. Our guest is Mr. Achike Chude. Mr. Achike Chude is a public affairs analyst. And for you, you're listening, I want to hear from you as well. What is your most pressing social justice issue at the moment? And how have you been affected? Or do you know someone that has been affected? And have you taken any steps to try to address these challenges? The number to call 01-4489981. You can also tweet at Smooth981 or send a message through via WhatsApp 0809 440 981. Now, just before we went on the break, Mr. Chude, we're talking about government's role in promoting social justice. What about these citizens, individuals, civil organizations? Do they also have a role to play in this as well?
Major role. Major role in the sense that, look, ultimately governance is about the people. And so if you look at the basic definition of, for instance, a democracy, they say it's a government of the people, for the people, by the people. It presupposes that the people are involved in their democracy, that they have a hands-on, involvement with what happens in their their government. And it is not just the involvement that they show during an electoral season where they are expected to come out en masse and vote for candidates and parties, political parties of their choice, but they should also be involved in actual governance. And that is where I think they have failed to a very large extent, because it doesn't end with the election. When elections are over, there are promises that have been made, to them by the politicians. It is the duty and responsibility of these people, to hold these politicians accountable. And so you don't wait till after 4 years, because in 4 years' time, so much damage might have been done that to begin the process of undoing this damage might be very Herculean, might be near impossible. So you make sure that from the moment they also get to power, that you hold them accountable. For instance, and people I've always talked about for instance, that the fact that a lot of Nigerians do not even know who their representatives are. So Nigerians have been derelict to a very large extent in holding their political leadership accountable. Somebody once said that the price we have to pay for our democracy is eternal vigilance. So eternal vigilance implies holding them accountable when monies are given to them. And I can tell you that, I've been impressed in the past few months. When you consider the activities of some groups, civil society organizations, you realize that some of them are walking the talk. For instance, an organization I'm affiliated with, it's called the CL, called Community Life Project Reclaim Nigeria. They make sure, one of the things they have done is to ensure that in communities where they are working, and I think they are heavily present in Lagos State, Osun State, and is it Ekiti State or so. What they do is that you see these constituency projects that are being given to some of these members of National Assembly.
Right.
They, they just inform the communities. They bring communities together and just tell them that, look, your representative has been given 20 million or 30 million or 100 million for this project. Has it done this project? You understand? And then they bring them together so that they themselves, and then empower them, teach them how to approach some of these politicians so that they ask them questions. And then they also ensure that these communities have also ensured that they have a relationship with the anti-corruption agencies, ICPC, EFCC, so that by the time they take some of these politicians on the projects for which monies have approved and which they have not done, they take them to task. And if they find out that these things have not been done, they report them to the EFCC or the ICPC. Now, that is citizenship participation in governance. That is what is expected. And once you begin to do that, the politicians will learn to sit up, because they have been, over the years, because of the, how would I put it, the complacence, of the people, they have been able to get away with a lot of atrocities. But now, with people being more and more enlightened, it becomes much more difficult for them to get away with some of these things. And that is what we should expect. So we shouldn't just expect that, think that we have voted or elected angels into governance. Even if you have elected angels into governance, look, the temptations and the things that will seduce them because of the monies and the resources that are available to them, if unchecked, are so much that if you don't take time, a lot of them, even people who went in there decent, promising to do a lot of things, will become seduced by the trappings of power. And because nobody is checking them, they can do whatever they want to do. So these are some. So we have a duty, have a responsibility. The media also has a duty and a responsibility. And I think that with this program that you are also, running at this particular point in time, the media is helping to discharge its responsibility to the citizens. Don't forget that we have different, organs, of government. We have the executive, we have the legislature, we have the judiciary. All of them are supposed to check one another. But apart from this, we also have the order that is called the fourth estate of the realm. And they have a constitutional responsibility. That's how important it is. Because you see, somebody has said that power, of course, what is it Baron de Montesquieu said about power? Corrupting, and ultimate power, too much power corrupting, absolutely. Absolute power corrupting, absolutely. And somebody has also said that nobody is so good and so nice to be given absolute power. So once you have power, you must check power. And so you have the media also doing their bit to also keep this people in check. But beyond all of these things, the various arms of government, the media, you also have the people that are supposed to keep watch over their institutions, even over the media. So it is a failure of the people and the media and the institutions of the state to check one another that is leading to the crisis of social issue matters that we're facing currently in the country today.
In Nigeria, we're a very diverse nation, lots of cultural beliefs, and even in some cases, religious beliefs as well. And I'm curious about this. Do these cultural and religious beliefs have perhaps an impact on social justice in Nigeria? And if there is a bit of a disconnect, is there a way that they can all align together to for the greater good of the people, really?
Yeah. Well, obviously. First of all, let's even talk about the issues that have to do with our culture. For instance, you can see that some people are the receiving end of negative, cultural practices. For instance, women. This issue. I mean, we used to talk about the genital,
FGM, yes.
genital. FGF, mutilation, female genital mutilation, which, is a cultural issue, but which impacts negatively, on the freedom of the woman, of the girl child and the woman. So these are issues that are being fought. It's a social justice issue that are being fought. And thank God that with a lot of success has been, made in that direction, and that laws have been made to protect the girl child or the woman from the danger of female genital mutilation. So it's a social issue. Then there is the issue of property rights, which the Supreme Court, has wonderfully waded in, because this issue of exclusion excluding a woman from the property of their father, for instance, or is something that cries against the face of justice, because these are legitimate children of a man that has passed. And you say that yes, the male children have access, can have access to some of these properties, but nothing for the female, because she's simply married, she has gone to another place, therefore she's not part of. I think the Supreme Court found out that it was unwholesome, it was unsavory, and adequately, removed that. Of course, it is going to take many, many years to be able to get the society or societies in where those places, where those things are happening, to get them to begin to get used to the fact that women are also equal when it comes to things like this. And then again, the treatment of women whose husbands have died. Well, okay, again, we have talked about it, where some of them are made to drink the corpses of their husband, their late husbands, to show that they were not, responsible for his demise. So these are issues, cultural issues, that have also played a role in that. And then essentially some of these things have been happening down south. Well, in the up north, you also have issues, some, religious practices that are even being fought by more likely people. The issue of child marriages, a child that is not even up to a child, a baby gets married at 10 years, and somebody that is 60, 70 years and all that. That is an abuse, and destroys the innocence of the little child. And I'm glad that a lot of people, some of our Muslim brothers, are beginning to say, and sisters are beginning to say that this is wrong, that we are applying these things the wrong way. And you have seen some other Muslim countries where these things are not happening. So these are also issues that are being fought, and successes have been made in that direction.
I want to talk about corruption, and that seems to be a massive challenge here in Nigeria, from cutting all across all levels. How has this affected social justice?
It has affected it massively on a very large scale, because what corruption does is that it takes the resources that is meant for everybody, and they end up in the pockets of a few people. Resources that are
speaking with Mr. Achike Chude, public affairs analyst, and the conversation is the reality of social justice in Nigeria.
The resources that are meant for our educational institutions, end up in private pockets, and so the people are deprived of something that is rightfully theirs. And as a result of that, the polity seen today is a poverty that we should have no business with, because this is a country that has been blessed left, right, and center, a country that has also been blessed with the requisite human number of human beings. So if you can imagine a situation where we had built a country that works, a lot of people who are looking for jobs today, who are in a position of hopelessness, would find something meaningful to do. And so we are paying price for some of these things, the insecurity that is going on in the country, the fact that even those people that have been trained, for instance, in various activities of life, medical doctors, engineers, people whose service to the country are exceedingly critical for national development, are leaving this country. It's as a result of the corruption that has permeated our society. So without this corruption, Nigeria will have a lot of money to be able to take care of some of the social justice issues that we are discussing about today. But unfortunately, we have seen how, we have seen the state to which the country has fallen. So it's all about, corruption. Of course, corruption comes from, like I have talked about earlier, this governance. Corruption is a governance issue. So if we're able to sort out the issue of, governance, that also implies that we have to sort out the issue of corruption. And then you now have more money, at the resources, of government and government institutions that will be used on behalf of the people.
All right, I've got a message coming through, and this one is from Efe from VI. Efe says, with regards to the property right Mr. Chude just mentioned, how accessible is justice to aggrieved parties within our society here in Nigeria? Okay.
It's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question you're asking. Efe is asking. Absolutely. We have talked about the criminal justice system, and we have talked about what happened with the EndSARS protest all over. It was as a result of the injustice inherent in the system, the abuse of the authority, given, to law enforcement agents, the abuse that they were perpetrating on citizens, especially the young people, among our population, that led to that uprising that we saw. So obviously, there is really, in Nigeria, you cannot really talk about easy access to justice in the country. First of all, justice is sometimes comes at a very high price in terms of we are looking at the finances needed to prosecute cases of injustice against you. It needs money, and a lot of Nigerians, because we are talking about a country that suffers from a multidimensional poverty. Though the government would also tell you that there's access to free to lawyers that are given by the state to people who are facing issues of injustice. But I can tell you that it is not the same thing. Office of Public Defenders. But I can tell you that it is not the same thing. Some of these people are not committed, and I'm not sure that they are very well resourced to be able to pursue matters up to a particular level. So you see them compromising along the way and jeopardizing the interest of the people they are supposed to be defending. So it is an issue. And even among the rich, we have seen what has happened in a country where justice is for sale. And that is what we have seen over the years, that once you have money, you can be able to purchase justice to some level. So who suffers it? The people who do not have what it takes to be able to counter those who have the money. For elections, even among those who are rich, we have seen also the brickbat that has been going on about the election petition tribunals, where, for instance, in a particular part of this country, somebody who came number 4 in an election was the one that was declared governor. And we have seen the crisis that particular matter has provoked in that particular state. So the criminal justice system is not accessible to the vast majority of Nigerians. You need a lot of money. You need a lot of influence to be able to provide justice for yourself. And that is not the way, a country should work. We should have systems in place for the ordinary people to be able to access justice. And so what we have with the Office of Public Defenders is a very, very good thing. But in most cases, it doesn't really work. It is not very effective because of some other, economic dynamics and social dynamics that are playing out in our country. Yeah.
All right. I was reading something. It was a report, and this had to do with the International Labour Organization calling for participation and a global momentum to see a reduction and prevention of these inequalities that are leading to social justice issues. And I'm wondering, how can these international organizations actually help to promote social justice in Nigeria? And what are some of the challenges that they possibly could face in that quest? And how do we overcome them?
Well, a lot is being done. And look, there is, an international movement for social justice, all over the place. If you look at, and a lot of these things are also tied to the issues of capitalism, as a global economic order. And people have argued that the degree at the level of inequality, that we see in the world today is as a result of, the relentless, virulent global capitalism that is being practiced, where very few people have access to the vast resources of their countries, to the detriment of the majority of their citizens. And I'll just give you, at an instance, at the level of even international trade, for instance, where is Africa in the scale of things? And where is the rest of the world? Africa is just contributing about maybe less than 5% of global GDP when it comes to issues of manufacturing. And you also have very clear-cut cases of social justice and marginalization of the African continent, for instance, where you have a continent that is so rich in mineral and human resources, and yet the continent is wallowing in poverty because of the dynamics of neocolonialism and the capitalist imperialism that is being played out by other parts of the world, especially the capitalist West. No, people will tell you that this is a problem with Africa and African political leadership and not the foreign countries, because they are all there to pander to their own, national interest. Why we should have national interest and continental interest. But unfortunately, we also have, the wrong kind of political leadership, across board in the African continent. So the fight for equality or the fight against inequality is a global fight. That a lot of social justice organizations are engaging in and trying to redress the issue of capitalism, virulent capitalism that has taken so much away from the resources, from natural or national resources, and put it into the hands of private individuals. So it's a work. And so what the ILO is doing is a very good thing, because I think the first thing is to try to get laws, to try to get countries to commit themselves to some of these issues. And again, you look at the Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs, and the Sustainability Development Goals, the SDGs. Everything they talked about are social, justice issues. They talk about access to water, potable water. They talk about access to health. They talk about access to education. They talk about the need to reduce, poverty. They talk about, equality. They talk about inclusivity. All of these issues are social justice issues. So I think the good thing is that we have a body of laws and regulations, pushing some of this agenda. And I think that is the key. If we didn't have them in the first place, then it even becomes a problem to begin to rally around some of these issues. But it is easier to now rally around some of these issues because they have become global issues. So they are not just Nigerian issues, but they have become global issues.
All right. Well, I have to say thank you so much to our special guest, Mr. Achike Chude, Public Affairs Analyst, for being on the show today and shedding a lot of enlightenment on the subject. So thank you, Mr. Chude, for coming on Lagos Talks this morning.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, social justice means everyone's human rights are respected, they're protected, and they're promoted. Everyone has access to equal opportunities and all the resources that they need to thrive. Now, it may not guarantee the perfect society where everyone is always going to be happy, but it just means that everyone has a fighting chance to create the life or live the life that they want. And that is it for the conversation this morning on Lagos Talks and the Smooth Breakfast. From Zibby is signing off. Thanks for being here with me. I'm back tomorrow from 6 a.m. for the Smooth Breakfast. Do stay with us. Oluwaseun is up next on Strictly Soul, which starts from 10 a.m.